Also tonight, too, I put up a link to Richard Dawkins. I call it Waiting for DawGod. And attempts to, is memedom, it says, via Saatchi and Saatchi. In other words, he wants to get up there into Starcase. And I don't know if you know that the guys that the Unabomber talks about, because he was a member, a university professor, and he mixed with some of the guys that were in the role of creating idol worship or stardom for scientists. Do you understand they do that too? So that you'll listen to these guys as being somehow more superior to you, and whatever their opinions are, you'll take them to heart and follow it. He worked with the guys. I put the links up before where you hear these actual guys talking about how they do it. They still do it yet. One of them's still in the business of creating stars, using the same machinery for rock stars. And you see a person who then has that kind of credence in your eyes, and promoted by the media. Whatever you say about any topic at all, you'll say, well, he must be smarter than we are, so I guess he's right. That's how they did it with Einstein too. All he did was talk about globalism. Not the stuff he supposedly discovered. Back with more after this. Hi folks, we're back cutting through the matrix, talking about reality and so on. And how, obviously, there's nothing missed. Remember, I always get back to Edward Bernays, who really created the American Consumer Society and many other things beyond. He worked with many governments down in the different presidents, including how to get wars set up and all the rest of it, and how to con the public and use propaganda to its maximum effect. And even got war started himself to save his own accounts with certain big producers of food in Latin America. He used the US military to go down and kick out the democratic elected government, call them communists, but they weren't. But this is how things really happen in the world. But getting back now to how they create stars out of things. You can pick up anybody and create a star. Straight and Crooked Thinking is a good book to start with. To show you can pick a guy on a soapbox in Hyde Park in London. Who's a tramp, basically, a vagrant. And there's lots of them that would do that. And they get there and they'd rant away. And some of their talks are quite nice, actually. And folk would jeer them, etc., because they're a tramp and have a good laugh. But you dress the guy up with a tux and the whole bit and promote him through the media as being some genius, etc., and give him a fake background, put him up there, and thousands and thousands will pay big money to come into some big theatre to listen to the guy talk, and then they'll all have great write-ups about him. That's how simple it is to con the general public. It's all perception management. And of course, I've mentioned to do with this article, Richard Dawkins. I mean, Dawkins has got his agenda. It's not his agenda, by the way. He's just a little worker of it. It's a big agenda. And it's important that he gets it through for the big boys, so that you're even easier to manage. And you can break all concepts that were concepts of survival. They must be destroyed. Once you're all dysfunctional, then government has more and more control, handling all the fallout. And that's why you have all these agencies in government now, and alcoholism and drug addiction. And children getting whacked off their parents is taken away. And all the rest of it. And permanent unemployed classes that they're actually classes unemployable because of the addictions and various things. That's how you control society. You dominate it. Hard to dominate a society where every little family is either self-sufficient, or at least self-sufficiency in their thinking processes with their brains functioning. So you're given your stars, and getting back to creating stars, and if you go into, I'll put it up again tonight, if I can find it in my archive section at cuttingthroughthematrix.com. It was about the Unabomber, and it was a documentary, excellent documentary about stuff you didn't know, and it's called The Net. And it goes through how even they set up the Grateful Dead band. They put them out there with these scientists, by the way. They're all scientists to do with psychology, the mind, and so on. And they traveled with them, and they threw out bags of LSD and different drugs because it was legal initially, and to get the people started, to get it all started, and really studied them. And they came out too with scientists who were getting big government funding, and funding also from foundations to start the whole psychedelic era. And they even put the big money into creating the strobe lighting and stuff for dance halls so they can really trip out on their drugs and really go to town. All that stuff was created by, not by people at the bottom street level. That was all created by people at the top, CIA, MI6, Mossad, and all the rest of it. But they create the stars, you see. And they go through the process because, I say, one of the guys in this article, this net, they call it the net, he actually still is in the business of creating stars. from people that you're supposed to listen to and give your mind over to. And I'll take his opinion. He's a clever guy. So simple, eh? Anyway, back to Richard Dawkins is another one. And it says here, it says the term, though, because you know the whole thing is, he came out with his 1976 book on evolution, Mr. Dawkins. This is the selfish gene, it was called. And it says originally the term referred to ideas or behaviors that propagate within a culture, analogous with how genes spread within a gene pool. Now everybody lauds it, it's still lauded today. But you can take that concept and say, well, if you're just a product of your genes and what you do, including your criminal activity, how about the bankers? You could go to town on that one, couldn't you? And you get always a protest. But it's okay if he says it, you see, because he's pointing you to think to other people. The term, though, has been hijacked in recent years, settling into a new life referring to internet memes, cultural, and he got the meme too. The meme is the me generation. That's where it came from. And it says cultural touchstones that spread rapidly across the web. Now a video created for Saatchi and Cannes, Dawkins has attempted to become a meme himself, or at least has an attempt at memedom thrust upon him. Described as a showcase theatrical piece, the 9-minute video begins with a short lecture by Dawkins on natural selection. He says the world is divided into things that look designed like birds and airliners and things that don't, rocks and mountains. Things that look designed are further divided into those that are really designed, such as submarines and tin openers, and those that aren't designed but look that way because they result from Darwinian natural selection, such as sharks and hedgehogs. He continues to outline the concept of memes, describing them as anything that spreads by imitation. Now, there's another concept to this, understand, because you can make anything not just a fad. It's a bit beyond that. It's a must-be. A must-be is something like the CFR has, comes from Foreign Relations, Relationship International Affairs, the World Bank, things that they all own. And the United Nations, and they own the United Nations who set it up, by the way. And something that must be is down to a timetable. This must be implemented by so-and-so. This must be implemented by so-and-so. They did it with abortion issues and the so-called free love scene that they brought out in the 60s. They had tried before when they were still called different groups in the late 1800s. H.G. Wells first wrote and promoted so-called free love in the late 1800s. But they didn't have the abortion clinics on. There was a lot of fallout. A lot of children were born and ended up in terrible Dickensian type foster homes or else in homes where they're being massively abused and so on. So they brought it back in the 20s and 30s, but because then they brought in prohibition for the booze industry to make sure that there are a few people could then own the new booze system, which they did. The Bronfmans made their money off it. And they made it sexy to be in a booze can. You know, oh, it's illegal. Oh, anything you make illegal, the youngsters will flock to it. And they did, and they found out all these alcoholics afterwards. But once again, and they brought the miniskirt in too in the 20s and 30s. But again, they got lots of venereal disease with no penicillin, and they had backstreet abortionists. So they brought it back in the 60s once they created the pill. Back with more after this. Hi folks, we're back cutting through the matrix, talking about Dawkins. I think everybody knows about Dawkins, because again, he's been elevated to star status from nothing really. But getting back to about the Unabomber and that documentary I put up tonight too, called The Net. Excellent movie. However, I hope it's been taken off or it's been censored or whatever, bits taken out of it. Because they go through John Brockman. Brockman was the guy who was assigned long ago, and he still works at it yet, of creating stars that people will listen to. If you have a group or anything that's a threat to government, you can be a star out of the person you put up as the person who's going to lead the opposition, the ones that's going to, so you put them in. That's how you do it. That's what even the CIA does, things like that, you see. And of course they're all connected because they all work together, if not even the same thing, actually. I think it is the same thing, personally. There's a lot of evidence there. But that's how they do it. I mean, don't wait for a hero to arise for the people, and supply them instead. And keep them going round in circles forever.
What about infanticide? Strictly morally, I can see no objection to that at all. I would be in favor of infanticide.
You study a well-made banana?
Go yourself.